Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to be doing a 3x3x3 review for Komodo by SchilMil Games. This is a recent review copy that I received, and I'm going to talk to you about how the game plays and give you a review of 3 things I enjoy about Komodo, 3 things either I didn't care for or I could see other gamers not enjoying, and then give you 3 recommendations for other games that have some similarities to Komodo. So here you can see the components for Komodo, and I'll kind of talk you through them. I really think the box art is striking here. We lived in Indonesia for a span of 14 years and saw Komodo dragons in different places. Saw monitor lizards even in our backyard, like a smaller version of Komodo dragons. So just really brings back those memories and feelings of living there, and actually have like a wooden Komodo dragon down in our living room. So yeah, as soon as I heard about this game and was given the opportunity to review it, I was really excited about it. Also, we used to have our grandkids living with us, all of them at some point, just about at different points in their lives, or most of them, I guess. And so we've had a chance to play games with kids, and this is a game I think originally designed for kids. And so let me tell you a little bit about Komodo. One is that when you open it up, you do have the rule book, which is pretty straightforward, and then you've got a nice storage solution here. So we won't keep that in the image, but we will just show you that. And the rule book is pretty, like I said, brief, gives some pictorial diagrams with examples, and talks about the 2 different kinds of play, both competitive and cooperative. Also has this nice section, a lot of information about all the animals that are included in this game, most of them being from that Australasia area that we're familiar with. So pretty cool. And then just some other information about other games and a little side note about the pieces and the animals that are in this game. So we'll put that off to the side for now. In the game, you're going to get these animal cards. I believe there's 32 of them, and there's like photography-based art for all. So here you can see the Barbaroussa, the Weta, the Kiwi, the Taipan, and I won't go through all of them, but you can see it's all basically photography-based art designed around the cards, and each card has a number in the top which tells you how much space they need to house them, and then the color down the side that tells you whether they need forest land or like desert type land or prairie type land or water. And so you're trying to find and build and locate those animals in appropriate territory. Now you also have the option of playing with these wild cards, and the wild cards have a variety of different actions you can take. So you can free beasts from the land that you've already put them into, the housing that you put them into, either your own or others. You can request to see all of a type of cards that the other players have, and then you can swap if you like. You can secure an animal so that it can't be released, and so you can lock it down. You can draw tiles or draw cards before your turn and then take your turn. And so there's a lot of just different actions that you can take if you use those wild cards. There's also these player aids here, which remind you of the hand size. In a standard game, you get 5 terrain tiles and 3 animal cards and 3 wild cards max in your hand at any time. And then for the co-op game, it's a bit different with different rules. And then on the back, you can see the actions that you can take. One is you can house the animals in the territory that you've built from these tiles. You could stock up your hand by taking either 2 animal cards plus 2 tiles, or 3 of either type. And then you could also exchange. So if you're not happy with the tiles or animal cards you have in your hand, you can exchange any number of them for ones that are in the piles. And these piles, for the competitive game, you're going to have this stack here, and then you're going to have 2 showing face up. So see if we can create enough room to do that. And so you can pick blindly from this stack, or you can choose one of the 2 that's face up, and you always automatically restock when you use them. And then if you play the cooperative mode, we've got these threat cards, and every turn you're going to turn over a threat card. So remove 1 animal and shuffle the card back into the draw pile. Place all of your remaining tiles now. Land shortage, draw 1 less tile on your turn. Everyone return 2 tiles and draw new ones. So there's different threats that are going to happen if you're playing the co-op game. And then you've got all these different tiles to create terrain from. And then you have all of these different tokens, standees. So this is a koala that reminds you it's 15 and it goes in the grassland. And then you can see we've got the Tasmanian devil. And some of them have 2. So like the Tasmanian devil has a 5 and a 10. and they can share territory because they're the same kind of animal and they both need the same requirements. So if you had a 10 size territory, you could put both the 5 and the 10 in there together. All right, so those are the different animals. They come, like we've seen, with the water, with the desert, and with the forest, and there's a standee for each one based on the cards that we demonstrated before. So that's the basic premise of the game and the different components. The way you play is you have this starting tile. It's different from the rest. It has this blue rim so you can identify it easily. That starts out, and each player is going to take 5 of these tiles to begin with, and you're going to be able to keep them secret so you know what they are. And then you're also going to take 4 cards. And so, I grabbed too many here, so we'll just start with those 4. All right. And so as I look at my hand, I've got a tuatara, a koala, and 2 quolls. And I've got the 5 and the 10 quolls. So I want to start building these grasslands because I've got a lot of grassland animals. And then I could also start building forest territory. Now if I look over here, I actually have a lot of water land here. So I'll have to decide, do I want to exchange? Do I want to go ahead and stick with this plan and try to build what I can? So just to show you the basic play, you can play as many tiles as you want. So maybe I would decide to go this route. And at least one has to be matching, 1 square. So if you look really closely, and you can see it probably best on the blue ones, there's just a real faint grid that divides these tiles into 3 by 3 squares. And so this one actually shows it a little bit better. You can see it. And then this one has a rock in the middle. And so if you look here, this has 3 in the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the 9 are forest. And then now that's connected to these 2. So that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I couldn't, so I can plant this tuatara in, and you can play as many tiles as you want. I could keep going if I want to, but I think I'll stop there. And then I find the tuatara 5. I'm going to put him somewhere on one of these tiles in that forest, and I'm going to put this in my tableau and keep that off to the side. And then the next player goes, and they can place, oh, and then at the end of my turn, if you are playing with the wild cards, then you are also going to draw wild. And you would start the game with a wild if you're using those in the game as well. So anytime you place an animal in the territory, you can draw a wild card at the end of your turn. You can play wilds as many of as you want and as often as you want in your turn. And so that's the basic idea. At the end then, you're going to decide, okay, next turn, do I still have enough tiles to do what I want to do? Or am I going to need to draw cards and draw tiles? What's going to be my strategy to try to eventually build out? This territory will keep growing and keep growing as all the players place tiles and house the animals in the territories that they've created. And in the end, you're going to add up all the points of the animals you've housed, and you're going to subtract the points of the animals that are still in your hand that you weren't able to house, and the player with the most points wins. So that's a not full rules overview of the competitive style of game, but a quick overview. The way the cooperative game works is you don't use the wild tile or the wild cards, but you do use these threat cards. And like I mentioned, after every player, you're going to play a threat card, and you are trying to house all 32 animals before all the tiles are used up. And if there's ever a turn where either player, as many as you can play up to 4, as any player can't house an animal during their turn, you automatically lose. And my wife and I played this one, and it was challenging. We came down to 1 tile short of being able to house the last animal. We needed 20 spaces. It was I think it was the Barbaroussa. Needed 20 forest spaces, and we only were able to come up with 19. So we were 1 square short of forest territory in that land to get the Barbaroussa in. So we didn't get the last animal in, and we lost. But it's a nice puzzle. It's a fun cooperative puzzle. So that's a quick overview. Like I said, not a full rules teach, but you can see the components, and you can hear a little bit about how this game plays. All right, so now let's get to the review. What are the things that I enjoyed about Komodo? What are the things that I didn't care for? And then give you some recommendations. So first off, the 3 things that I like about Komodo. Number 1 is I like the fact that you can play it a lot of different ways. You can play it competitively with or without the wild cards. You can play it cooperatively and then add in those threat cards. And so that gives you some variety to kind of scale it with who you're playing with. So if you're playing with a little bit younger children, you probably wouldn't want to use those wild cards, as that adds quite a bit of complexity and take that to the game. But you have the flexibility to do that. And I could see even just house ruling different things in terms of making it even simpler if you want to play. I was thinking about my own grandkids who are all age 6 and under. they wouldn't probably be able to understand all the rules and guidelines right now, even without the wild cards. The older ones would probably get most of it, but they would enjoy building out the terrains and then placing the animals and counting the squares. You know, they could handle that. I don't think they would quite get the whole planning and sequencing and be very strategic, but I think they could get the basic idea. I think the wild cards would be a bit much for them right now, but I like the fact that you could scale it. And so that's really nice. You can play it competitively, cooperatively, and you can scale it. You can take cards in, take cards out to adjust how you want to play. The second thing that I really like about Komodo is the cooperative play. There's quite a bit of take that in the competitive, but the cooperative, if you don't like to take that, you've got this other mode to play, and it is a very thinky puzzle. We played it on normal mode, and you can go to hard mode and extreme mode if you want. But even on normal mode, like I said, we came down to missing by one tile. Now there's some luck that's factored in, because on those threat tiles, sometimes a threat comes up and it absolutely does nothing negative to you. Sometimes it does some negative, but you can kind of work your way around it. Sometimes it actually helps you. But there was one that came up at just the wrong time where we had to actually discard one of the terrain tiles from the game. And if we had still had that tile, we would have won. But it was the tile we were missing to be able to create the terrain large enough for that Barbaroussa. So it was just that one play that cut us short. So it was a very thinky puzzle that we enjoyed. And we like puzzly games. We like cooperative games. So that was kind of fun. The third thing that I liked about Komodo was that it's got some simple, surprising depth here. So you can mix in the wild cards. You can play competitive with those threat cards, and there's a lot of things to think about. You have to, in the competitive mode, think about managing your hand so you don't just run out of tiles and cards. You got to figure out how to choose those wild cards and when to choose them so that you can protect yourself and protect your animals. At the same time, maybe set your opponents back a little bit. Drawing extra cards, drawing extra tiles. There's really some timing mechanisms there that you want to be really careful of. Thinking about making your territory just the right size, trying to block off territory from other people, take the animals they want. All kinds of thinkiness that you have to process while you're playing this game, both with timing, hand management, tile placement, and just factoring in what the other players are doing. I would like to play this with more than just two in the future to see how that goes, but so far I've only had a chance to play it two-player. So those are the three things that I enjoyed about Komodo. Now, there are some things that I didn't care for. I could see other people maybe not enjoying so much. One is the age group kind of surprised me. I feel like unless it's an upper elementary age kid, probably not going to really be able to process all that's going on and be competitive in any way if you're using those wild cards. Maybe. I mean, there are some, I'm sure, that are very bright and could, do that. But I think for a typical elementary age kid, this is probably a bit beyond them. And for most adults, it might feel like it's clever enough and there's enough to think about, but they would, I mean, as an adult, I probably would choose other games first. So it's kind of in a weird balance age-wise, where it's not quite easy enough for younger kids, for at least the majority of younger kids, I think. But maybe not quite developed enough for most adults to enjoy. So it's kind of in a weird age group. Which audience is the best for this game, I think, is a concern. We did enjoy it, but I don't see my wife and I really wanting to play it competitively again. We might try the cooperative again, but if we're going to play a competitive game, we would probably choose something different. I wouldn't want to try this with my grandkids, and they might surprise me. Maybe they'll do better than I think they will. So this is kind of just a question mark for me, but a little bit of a yellow flag, I guess. The second one is the inconsistent art. This is a remake of a 2012. This is the second edition that just came out here in 2022. And I think the tiles are beautiful. I mean, the artwork on the tiles and laying out the terrain, I really like them. It's very pretty, attractive. I like laying them out and building them. And if you don't mind the photography-based style, I think the animal cards, they're fine as well. I mean, some people might prefer more of an artistic representation of the animals instead of a photography-based. But the graphic design and the pictures are pretty good on the animal cards. But it gets a little, in the game boxes I showed, I think it's really attractive. But the other cards, I think the wild cards, they kind of just look like stock photos, and the graphic design isn't quite as eye-catching. Kind of gives me Terraforming Mars vibes with that. And then same with the threat cards. They just feel like almost clip art stock photos sort of things that I feel like that could have been raised up a little bit. The quality of the components is nice, like the standees, they're heavy cardboard. The tiles are nice, thick cardboard. But it just feels a little like some things look really nice and some things look really outdated. And I feel like maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity jumping from 2012 to 2022. I kind of feel like maybe they could have boosted it up a bit in the quality, the artistic and graphic design a bit. And so that's something that gives me a little bit of concern. I don't think it's going to compete quite as much with modern games. And so coming out with a revamped version in 2022, I feel like maybe they should have raised the bar just a little bit. Might not have been possible for the company, but yeah, that's a little concern. I think it may be hard to compete with other games that are going to be drawing in buyers' attention. And then the third thing is, in the competitive game, some people are not going to like to take that because you can really go after each other. And I think some children might be kind of taken aback by that if they don't like that kind of aggressive play, or if they can't handle that kind of aggressive play. It'll depend on person to person and player to player. And then on the cooperative one, there is a bit of luck. Like I said, we had just one card play, and that one card, that threat that came up at just the right time, took away that tile, and that one tile being taken away meant we didn't win. And that's fine. If you like a game that's hard to win, but the luck of what you draw and the luck of the order that the cards come out, you have to find a way to mitigate that and overcome that if that's what you like. My wife and I actually do, so that wasn't bothering for us, but I could see for others thinking, well, we would have won if it wasn't just for this one thing, and that was out of our control. So people who don't like luck in their games might not appreciate that. For us, it wasn't a big issue. We liked the challenge. And now, 3 recommendations of other games that I think have some similarities to Komodo. The first one is, if you like the cooperative version of Komodo, we really like Groundhog Day, and I think for some kids this might be a little bit easier to understand. You have to put just numbers in ascending order, and so that's pretty simple. You do have to do it without talking, so there might need to be some coaching between rounds to help the kids think through how to do it. There's some color matching and some pattern building, and so it's interesting. There's a time-based element, so it is a real-time game in some parts of the game. But I think this is a nice cooperative game that kids could also play that you might want to consider if that's what you like about Komodo, or if that's what intrigues you about Komodo. Another one that I think is similar that you could also play with kids is King Domino. Now, this is the giant version, and so this has the really big, chunky tiles, but you can buy the smaller version. There's expansions for the smaller version. There's even a King Domino's Origins now that's out. And the base game, King Domino, you can play with kids. We play with our grandkids quite often when they used to live with us. And it's something that they could understand really well. There's pattern building. You're laying out the terrain. We even threw the Giants expansion in. They didn't quite understand the strategy of that, but they liked it. So King Domino is another one with the tile laying, pattern building that I think a lot of kids could enjoy, and one that even adults enjoy. And then the final one, this is one of my all-time favorite games, actually, and that is Cascadia by Randy Flynn, and this is by Flat Out Games and AEG Games. And Cascadia is another one where you are laying out tiles, but you're comboing that with animal tokens. So there's a real similarity here where you're putting the animals on the tiles, but in Cascadia you do that every turn. You place a tile and you place an animal every turn. And you're not building terrains of a certain size, but you are trying to pattern up the terrains to build the biggest areas of each type of terrain. So this is a very puzzly tile laying game. I think this one is a step up in complexity for sure. The artistic components and everything in Cascadia are top notch. And so if you like the tile laying game, if you like the animal theme, I think Cascadia would be another one you may want to check out. So there you have it. That is my 3x3x3 review for Komodo. A beautiful game, and one that I think a lot of kids might enjoy. I think if you want to try out a game that has both competitive and cooperative, you may want to give it a shot. If I were giving this a rating, and I have actually rated it on BoardGameGeek, I'd give this one a 7. It's not up there in my top games of all time, but especially that co-op mode, I think, is one that's going to keep it on the table. And I think our grandkids, when we get a chance to play with them again, are really going to like the animals and building out the tiles. It's got enough of a vibe of King Domino, which they love. And also Dragomino is another one that's a version of King Domino for younger children. That's another recommendation if you have younger kids. But the 7 on my ranking is because of, I think it does have that flexibility. I like the co-op mode. And so it's a game that I would usually be willing to play. It's a game that I would enjoy and recommend to certain people depending on what they're looking for. So hopefully this video was helpful for you to understand more about the game Komodo and decide if it might be a game for you or not. If you did enjoy it, I would love it if you give it a thumbs up, and it would be terrific if you'd also choose to subscribe to the channel. If you have questions about the game that you want to ask, leave those comments below. If it reminds you of other games that you enjoy, because I do love tile laying games, leave those suggestions down below in the comments as well. As always, thanks for watching. This is Billy, Indiana, signing off.